Hi, hello, I'm Sam Harrison. I read, review and discuss fantasy and science fiction books. We're here today to review the 7th book in the Wheel of Time, A Crown of Swords. Yeah, a crown, not the. So I think Matt pointed out in our spoiler chat that all the other books are the, and this is a. So, A Crown of Swords, book 7. This review is going to be non-spoiler, so I am going to discuss the events of the previous books, but if you have not yet read Crown of Swords, then you are comfortable and happy to watch this one. I do feel like maybe I should start just doing all sequel reviews as full spoiler, but one of the kind of main aims for the channel is for people to be able to read along and watch my reviews as recommendations, and it feels weird to separate out some sequels and not others, and some books and not others. So for the time being, this is a non-spoiler review. There will be a full spoiler discussion, which usually runs over an hour, with my friend Matt, who has his own channel, Bask in the Story, that's currently on hiatus because he actually, did the thing and he got himself a job in the publishing industry, which is pretty cool. I don't work in publishing, and I think it would be cool to do so. Let's talk a little bit about The Crown of Swords. So, we leave Lord of Chaos in quite an interesting position. So Lord of Chaos is book 6, and in Lord of Chaos a lot of stuff happens, but no storylines really get tied up. So from Fires of Heaven all the way through to Crown of Swords, we've got quite a few ongoing storylines, and things aren't really being tied up very well. If I was reading this book at the time it came out, I think I might have been disappointed, because this book really does take steps along the story, but doesn't really seem to get you to a significant milestone. So Rand has been talking about Samael in Ilion and which of the 3 women that he loves he's going to end up with. He's been talking about getting Matt to bring Elaine home to Cairhien and Camelin so that she can take both thrones and unite Andor and Cairhien. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on in this book, and I mean, actually that's just Rand's story. So Matt is on the run from his destiny. Perrin has gotten married and has become a lord, and kind of like the king of the 2 rivers, but without wanting to be. So he desperately doesn't want to be a lord. It's quite interesting with Perrin. His whole character arc seems to be about things being thrust upon him. So he has being Ta'Veren thrust upon him. He has being a wolf brother thrust upon him. He has he doesn't have Fael thrust upon him, because he clearly has feelings for Fael, and that relationship has been really well done by Jordan. But I think she definitely chased him rather than the other way around. And there's more to come on that front. And then you have all the other characters. But, yeah, I mean, actually, we will stick with Perrin. So Perrin, one of the big things that I thought about in the first few books of Wheel of Time was that characters were very much fighting against their identity. And now, many of the characters have accepted their identity. So Rand has fully accepted that he's the Dragon Reborn, and so has everyone else. Perrin has accepted that he's a wolf brother. He's accepted that he's this lord of the 2 rivers, despite not really wanting to be. But he has accepted it. He accepts the responsibility. He expects, he wants to just, go back to being a blacksmith, but he kind of knows that can't happen. Egwene has accepted she's kind of not fighting against anything, actually. So many of the characters are fighting against what they don't particularly want to be, but find they have to be. Egwene isn't really. Egwene kind of seems to be following, like, the perfect path for her character, or like the dream path for her character, like the one she would choose if she was able to choose. So you've got that, and then Nynaeve in a very interesting way. Obviously, Nynaeve never wanted to be an Aes Sedai, found Aes Sedai suspicious, didn't like them, but found that she needed to be an Aes Sedai. She thought she needed to be an Aes Sedai to learn more about healing, which has always been her calling. And then it turns out that she actually knows more about healing in many ways than some of the Aes Sedai, which is very interesting, which is a great plot point. I really like that. Elaine isn't really rallying against being Queen of Andor. I think that she would accept it if she had to, but I think she's much more interested in, like, scholarly pursuits and in ter'angreal, in Aes Sedai, in history, and in Rand, of course, as well. And so while she is interested in she understands her responsibility to be the queen, she isn't rushing back to take that throne. And in fact, I don't know if this is the third book in which Rand is like, no, I'm going to give Caemlyn and Cairhien to Elaine. It's definitely the second. Yeah, that storyline does not have much motion forwards. They're also looking for the Aes Sedai characters. So Egwene, well, not Egwene actually. Elaine and Nynaeve are looking for the Bowl of the Winds, which is the MacGuffin that can help them stop can help them fix the weather. So since the Dark One's prison has been worsening, the world has been heating up, and it should be the middle of winter right now, but it's so hot that everyone is dripping with sweat basically 24/7, unless you're a Aes Sedai or man who can channel, who's learnt the trick of ignoring the weather, which is quite fun because there's a line. So somebody accuses Elaine and Nynaeve of faking being Aes Sedai, not being real Aes Sedai, and when they leave the room, one of the characters is like, "Wow, did you notice though that they weren't sweating?" And I thought that was very well done. That whole section was very good. I really like the introduction of the kin as a new... They're not a power in the world, but they're a new group which can join the kind of magical side of things. So you have the, like, warlike side of things, you have the political side of things, and then you have the magical side of things. Interesting to see the Seanchan back in a big way again. They have been kind of in the background a little bit the last book or so, but they're way more in the forefront. That's actually... They're not way more in the forefront, but they're very important in this story. There's multiple chapters which turn on Seanchan involvement, which I thought were really good. A few people have mentioned that this book has a plotline that they didn't care for. I feel like I can probably guess what that is, which is Mat and Tylan. I think I'm going to give Jordan the benefit of the doubt because of the way that he has written situations like this before, and say that it's more reluctance at the role reversal on Mat's part than unwillingness to take part in that romantic liaison. It's especially because at the end of the book he's like, next time I'll do the chasing, And I think it's clear that he would have been interested, but just is not used to the way that women do things in Abu Dar, where the women chase the men. The romantic liaisons are kicked off by the women in a way that they aren't in Andor and Emond's Field and what have you. So, yeah, we're going to give Robert Jordan the benefit of the doubt on that one. And honestly, that is purely because of the way that he has written the whole rest of the series, in that he very clearly does not see... He clearly sees as very serious, as very, coercion in that regard to be extremely serious and extremely wrong. Maybe I should bleep that. I wonder if YouTube will demonetize me for talking about that when I'm talking about a book review. Might bleep that one word. It's great to see some of my fan fave characters returning. So characters like Lan, who we've barely seen since like book 1 and 2. Like, I feel like we saw loads of him in book 1. Then we had very sparing but great scenes with him and Rand in book 2. And then we just haven't seen him since. Like, since Moraine's death. She's not dead. I do not believe she's dead. You don't get Rosamund Pike to play Moraine, and also her to be the executive producer of the entire series, if she's not going to be in it again after book 4 or whatever. So I just do not believe that Moraine is dead. I don't think Lanfear dying off page is realistic. Like, Lanfear is such an important character as part of the Forsaken in the story overall. Like, it feels to me almost like Rand has been talking throughout the books about how he will never kill another woman, etc., etc. It does feel like maybe Lanfear is what they're lining up for him to actually kill when it comes to it at the end of the books. That feels like it to me. Like, if you said which two of the Forsaken were the most important, I would probably have said Lanfear and Demandred, who was Lewis Theron's best friend. Lewis Theron's best friend. So because he has that personal connection to the dragon, Lanfear has that personal connection to Luz Theron, but also to Rand, because she's like obsessed with the reborn Luz Theron through Rand, but has kind of built that relationship with him. We've got a really interesting like setup coming later, where the characters that are, the major antagonists, or the, chief henchmen of the major antagonists, are also, close friends, ex-lovers of Luz Theron, which I think makes for a stronger storytelling hook to me, especially if something is going to happen to the Luz Theron in Rand's head. So there is I believe that, in this book, Min has a viewing. I think it's in this book. The last two kind of blend together. If you'd released Lord of Chaos and Crown of Swords as one book, I think it would have done just as well, apart from the fact that the battle at Dumas Wells is one of the best endings of any of the Wheel of Time books. And there's no menagerie in either book. There's a bit where they reference a menagerie in Crown of Swords, and I was like, are we actually going to go back to the menagerie? Is that happening? And thankfully, no, it does not happen. The menagerie is like the only part of the, of these books that I've been like, could have chopped that out. Didn't really need that. But again, like I say, every time I mention the menagerie, I am sure that somewhere down the line, the main dudes from that menagerie will end up being generals in the Army of the Light or whatever. So I don't think Jordan is in the business of creating completely useless characters. And interestingly, we also get the return of a character I believe from book 1, who is a dark friend that assaults Matt and Rand on their journey. We do get loads of Matt POV in this book, which I really like. Matt is obviously fantastic as a character. The Dragon Reborn really sold me on him, and then Jordan was like, yeah, but you don't want to see him that much for the next 3 books, right? Or have really any POV chapters from him. So I was really glad to see him come back, and also in a big way in this book. So he has the largest percentage of POV chapters. His story is quite good in terms of the Thailand stuff is fun, especially if you take it the way I think that it is intended. Because otherwise it's not fun at all. So if you take it the way that I think Jordan is intending, it is a fun story. I really like his relationship with Ulver. We don't get much in this book because Thailand kind of keeps sending Ulver away, or like Ulver seems to be even a bit of a MacGuffin sometimes. But I enjoyed his introduction in Lord of Chaos, and I can see him being an interesting and important character down the line. Also, I'm 99% certain that they have said 9 moons when referring to Sean Chan characters. So that is Matt's future wife, I guess, the daughter of the 9 moons. That's brought up again in this book, the daughter of the 9 moons thing. One thing that I missed a little bit in this book is I feel like we haven't had much time with Avienda in a while. There's actually an Avienda POV chapter in this book, which I did really like. But I would like to spend more time with her. We spent a lot of time with Min in the last 2 books, and it feels like Avienda and Elaine have been almost sidelined. We get a lot of good Nynaeve POVs, but Elaine and Avienda, I mean, like, Avienda, we haven't had that many POVs from her, so I'm not that bothered about her being a POV character, but I would like to see more of her. She's in Ebu Dar with Nynaeve and Elaine, but she's just like not around for almost all the big story moments, apart from like the ending story moment in Ebu Dar. Some very interesting stuff going on in the White Cloaks side of town in this book as well. So like obviously there's a big event in the White Cloak camp. I believe it's at the end of book 6, but I can't 100% remember. So I'm gonna not reveal it in case it is a big turn at in the early. Oh, it might be the first chapter. It might be the prologue of Crown of Swords. Anyway, something big has happened in the White Cloak world, and the White Cloaks now have a new leader, and that new leader is not great. There is a heavy implication that he has coerced Morghese into bed with him, which absolutely sucks. And the way that Jordan treats that versus the way that he treats Tylan is what kind of tells me tells me that story is meant to be funny. It's not meant to be sinister, if that makes sense. The Morghese stuff is not a throwaway comment, but it's not brought up over and over and over. It's just referenced, I think, 1 or 2 times. It is great to also get more Morghese. I do genuinely, every chapter of hers, I really like. If you asked me, if you pinned me down and were like, which chapters don't you like? I honestly couldn't tell you. I think there's every POV character in the series I like. I really, really like the POV chapters that are not Rand's POV that have Rand in them, because you can see how everyone feels about him, which I think is really, really interesting. And Jordan continuously making us sympathize with Rand, making us feel for him, making us live in his shoes. and then showing us his actions from the point of view of other people is really smart. I think that's probably the smartest thing he's actually done at all in all of these books. Giving us that duality, giving us that perspective. Because Rand really is the villain in a lot of these stories. If you are, say, for example, an Aes Sedai, and you're not sure about this proliferation of male channeling, Rand could be a serious villain to that character, and that character would not be a villain. Like, often, yes, villains are heroes of their own story. Heroes in books would be the villains if you flip stuff around, but you don't always see. So it's often a character be like, oh well, they're the hero of their own story. They're just doing things. They're doing things in a way that they feel they have to be done, and maybe break a few eggs, etc., etc. But there are a lot of Aes Sedai who are not, who are altruistic, who are out to protect humanity, who are out to heal, who are out to broker peace in wartime, and Rand is definitely opposed to Aes Sedai in this book. This has been a bit of a rambling review, and I should probably try and put some structure into these, but I feel like just giving you guys my free flow thoughts pretty quickly after finishing the book is maybe the best way to go, because Matt and I will have a really nice structured, well thought out and discussed spoiler discussion. So this one can be a little bit more freeform. Now, the one thing that I feel like this book did not nail was the ending. I felt like as I was reading the ending, I was like, this could have been anywhere in the book. It wasn't like Dumai's Wells, where you couldn't have had Dumai's Wells in the middle of the book and then not much afterwards. Yeah, like it would have felt like a crescendo for the story, whereas I don't think that the ending of Crown of Swords felt like that crescendo. We didn't get the Sanderlanche. It felt like, to me, that Jordan was like, this feels like a good place to end this book, and he added in the final sequence in that book. The final sequence is very good, and I enjoyed it. I really liked the location that it takes place, and there's definitely a few things that come up across this book which make me feel like there's even more going on than we were aware of. It feels like we're about to get another layer peeled back on the onion in terms of, so we've got Forsaken and the Dark One, and we've got Saidar, and then it's like, well, actually there's something else, and there's possibly another group of characters. And I know we've seen that the Wheel of Time is a multiverse because Rand has travelled to alternate universes using the Travelling Stone. So maybe there's something going on there. But I'm really looking forward to getting some more answers on the questions that were asked in this book. And that kind of folds us right back round to the beginning. So I said at the beginning of the review that if I had read this book when it was coming out, I might have been a bit disappointed, to be honest, because it's very episodic. This book feels like the next couple of months in the story of the Wheel of Time. It does not feel like the next book in the Wheel of Time. Like if you look at, for example, Dragon Reborn, Shadow Rising, they both have a very set beginning, middle, and end. A quest is begun at the beginning of the book and is ended at the end. In book 5, several of the characters embark out on the quest to Ebu Dar to find the Bowl of the Winds around the 60% mark, and they are still there at the beginning of Crown of Swords and they haven't found it yet, and finding the bowl is still their main objective a whole book later. Rand is still, trying to get Elaine on the thrones. Rand is still dealing with the, you know, traitors and fallout from previous events. This book is very much an episodic part of the story, and I absolutely can see why. If you were reading this when this came out and you'd been waiting for this book for like 2 years or whatever it actually was, I know a lot of them were annual, but I feel like when it got to the point that people considered to be the slog, they were slowing right down. And book 7 is the book that a lot of people consider book 7 to be the start of the slog. Several people said that book 6 was as well, but I found both books to be good. I rated both 5 stars. This was a 5-star read for me. I loved it. And I wonder if I would have loved it as much if I was not already looking at a copy of The Path of Daggers on my shelf. I absolutely could see that if you were a huge Wheel of Time fan and you'd waited years for this and you knew the next book was years off, this could have been very disappointing. However, context on these things does matter, and for me, I loved it. I had a great time. I have the next book ready to read. I read the previous book 2 or 3 weeks ago. So it's hard for me to get into the mindset of somebody who was reading it as it came out. And there's no series that I read that feels like this, where it feels so episodic. Like if you think about things like Stormlight Archive, that's actually pretty well like set out and set up, you know? Anyway, what I can tell you is I love this book, and if you read this book in the same fashion I have, you know, where you're reading each book a month after another, I would expect that you would enjoy it too, especially if you've enjoyed the previous 6. This is not reinventing the Wheel of Time. This is more of the same good stuff. And I don't need the Wheel of Time to be reinvented every single Wheel of Time. I just want to read good books in this series, and I'm kind of sad that I've reached the halfway point, because now there are more books behind. Yeah, there are as many books behind as in front, and we're not long away from there being more behind me than there is more to read of the Wheel of Time. So, on that sad note, let's end this video. So, if you liked this video, please give it a like. If you didn't like Crown of Swords, please also like the video. Just because I liked it doesn't mean that you have to dislike my video. Second, drop down in the comments and let me know what you thought. Let's chat about the series. Let's chat about Crown of Swords. Tell me what I can expect from Path of Daggers, for example. I know Petrick, I saw him talking about Path of Daggers in a reading wrap-up a while ago, and he hated it. But also, my tastes and Petrick's tastes aren't exactly the same. And I feel like I bought in and in love with these characters so much that as long as the story is somewhat ticking along, I'll still have a great time. And if you aren't subscribed when you're watching this video, please do subscribe, because every little subscription helps. And we're so close to monetizing. We're a couple of months away now at the current rate of growth of the channel, and I'd really like to see the channel able to hit that 1,000 subscribers monetization milestone, especially as we passed the watch hours milestone, which most people say is the hardest one. We passed that months ago. So if you want to join our community, chat about books, talk about the fun videos that we make on the channel, then please do subscribe. And I'll speak to you tomorrow.